Karloff, back at it again with a new episode of the Bedtime podcast. As always, I'm joined by Babby. um, we have a slam dunk episode. As always, really. We have, week 4 of Simian Summer Marathon. I think this will last until September. I don't think that's when fall starts, but
September 21st.
Um, is that when it starts?
I thought so.
So
Maybe it's October. I don't know.
I don't know either. And frankly, I don't want to look it up. So I won't. Yeah, so we have that talking about the ape. Easily the worst movie that we have seen so far for this marathon, which has been nothing but I think the highest one I gave was like 3 stars. This marathon has not been very successful in finding good movies. But that's fine. That makes it interesting to talk about, I guess. But first of all, we have news. And, we don't have a whole lot of news. Nothing really exciting happened, except for literally the most exciting news that has happened in the last decade. And that Shrek 5 is real and it is confirmed. And we have a release date. And yeah, it's July 1st of 2026. So in almost exactly 2 years, Shrek 5 will be in our lives. Well, in exactly 2 years, Shrek 5 will be in our lives. It will just have been a week and a half old. So that's very, very exciting. And all of the original cast is coming back. At least they confirmed Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy and Cameron Diaz are coming back. I don't think they're up to much anyways, so I don't know if that was really a question. But, it's exciting stuff. But I did some detective work, and I'm a little bit nervous about it. Because really, if that big announcement happened, and if it was immediately announced that the guy who did the most recent Puss in Boots movie was involved, it would be a hands down slam dunk for DreamWorks, because man, that last Puss in Boots movie, it's probably up there with Shrek and Shrek 2 as being some of the best animated movies of all time. A complete surprise for me. I think it was a surprise for you as well when we watched it on how good it was. I think it was your movie of the year of 2022, if I remember right.
I think so.
So
out of the 3 I saw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it did beat Money Plane twice, so there was fierce competition. So obviously, if that was the case and Puss in Boots guy was announced to be attached, it would be very, super exciting. But, and this is a big but, the Shrek official Twitter account, which was just created at Shrek. I'm sure that they had to steal it from someone, or maybe they just
paid $500,000.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they did it. But it's the official one, even though it's still using a rendering from, I think, Shrek 3 as its profile picture. So no, we aren't seeing how Shrek is looking like in the new movie. But it is following 3 profiles on Twitter. 2 of them are obvious, DreamWorks and Universal. So just the company that owns DreamWorks and DreamWorks. And then Brad Abelson is the other profile that they're following. And you go on Brad Abelson's Twitter, and wouldn't you know it, that guy is co-directing the movie, and what did he make last? Minions 2.
Good.
He's basically, that's it. That's his only movie that he's ever directed. Now, this guy is an animator veteran, a veteran animator, I guess. He's been in the animation game for a very long time. He was like a storyboard artist, did a bunch of animating for The Simpsons. I think he animated like 160 some episodes of that show. So he's been in the game a long time. Just started getting into directing, and you know, for that's a little bit worrying. Like, please get the Puss in Boots guy. But it's a co-directing. He's directing it with a man named Walt Dorn, and Walt Dorn is let's see. Okay. Walt Dorn is I think he was involved in Shrek 3 and 4. Um which is I don't know if this needs to be said. Not not the best ones. Um he was the looks like the writer and head of story for Shrek the Third and Shrek Forever After. In Shrek 2, he is credited as a story writer and story artist. So he was involved in Shrek 2, but I'm very worried now where I'm like, oh, these are the two guys you have. Um, and I think like Walt Dorn more recently he directed Trolls Band. He's directing all the Trolls movies. So that's definitely where DreamWorks' head is at, where it's like, oh, well, these Trolls movies have been an absolute cash cow for some reason, even though I've never met a single person who's seen any of them. But obviously, 20 somethings are not the target audience for those. But Shrek 5 probably should be aimed at a little bit of an older audience because kids these days aren't really growing up with Shrek the same way that we were. I mean, the last Shrek movie came out in 2010. So, I mean, kids born in the 2010s don't even know weren't even around when Shrek was in theaters. They still release his movies every once in a while as like a kids fest, come see kids movies for $2 at the local theater or whatever. But it's a little bit worrying. I just want to put that out there. I don't want to ruin everybody's fun, but I'm just like, uh-oh. It's the Trolls guy and the guy who did Minions 2. And I'm not saying that it's like for sure meaning that it's going to be bad, but I mean, their catalog doesn't look great. So, yeah. I don't understand why they wouldn't just give the Shrek franchise to the Puss in Boots guy, because he clearly gets it and what makes the Shrek franchise, at least the first two movies, so great. But whatever. Give it to the Trolls guy and the Minions guy because those movies make a lot of money. And who cares if they're good? As long as they sell tickets, which Shrek 5 is guaranteed to sell a lot. So, yeah, I'm still excited. I just need to announce this. I need to get this off my chest. Like, I'm sorry, everybody, but these are the people that are making it. And I don't want to, like, shit on these guys too much, but because I'm sure they could turn it around and completely surprise me. But I guess we'll see in 2 years and or when the trailer drops. But, here, okay, the trailer, do you think they're going to do full on nostalgia bait trailer? Or do you think it's going to be like kids movie trailer?
I think they're going full nostalgia bait.
You think
Even the
so?
announcement today was kind of that way.
That is true. The announcement on Twitter was just like it wasn't even a remix of All Star. I think it was just All Star, and then it said the All Star returns.
Yeah,
Um,
which isn't even a great tagline,
no, it
to
isn't.
be honest.
Um,
Like, there's so many better things you could have done with that.
like I understand that. I mean, that first movie, there was a lot of memes with Smash Mouth All Star 10 years ago. Nobody's really making All Star memes anymore.
No,
Um, and also, I don't even think that like I mean, I know that that song is associated with Shrek, but when I think of Shrek, I don't necessarily think of All Star first.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that'd be interesting because like Shrek movies like had like this edge to them.
Yes.
I don't know if they're gonna keep that or not. I mean, Puss in Boots kept it at a pretty respectable area.
Yeah, he
I feel
says
like they need to
damn and
just keep
stuff.
that. He does.
Yeah.
I think Shrek just needs to have a real life panic attack on screen in the trailer.
Well, I don't even necessarily want that. But yeah, I mean, I think what made those first two Shrek movies special is that it was born in a period of DreamWorks history that was like angry and like vengeful against Disney because
Yeah,
like
it was edgy.
John Katzenberg was a madman who like burned all of his professional contacts to create a studio with Steven Spielberg, and like everything was like our first movie needs to rip off A Bug's Life because I'm going to stab John Lasseter in the back, and then I want to kill like Michael Eisner, the current CEO at Disney. So I'm just gonna here's Shrek. It's a parody of all those stupid ass fairy tale movies that that dumbass studio Disney made. And it's just like, oh, that's what made those special is that they're always like poking fun at like the clean kind of sanitized look that Disney had, especially back then, but they still have it today. So you kind of need that satire of Disney, and that's why those are special. So we'll see if they keep it. The Puss in Boots did. Um, but do I expect kind of an edge from Trolls and Minions 2? No.
No.
No, I do not. Those are like the cleanest, like sanitized, you know, colors to put in front of kids so that the parents
Yeah.
don't can take a break for an hour and a half. And I hope that that's not what they turned Shrek into, even though they did do that twice. Even though the fourth one's not as bad as the third one, but it's yeah.
But still, it's a
It's,
far cry from
it
two
is. Two,
or even
two,
one.
two is a masterpiece, and I will
Yeah,
fight anyone who
one of the
says
best
otherwise.
films ever.
I would say so. It's in my top 10.
Hmm.
Um, and that's coming from someone who's seen like over 700. So it's one of the best. So I don't know. Die if you don't think so. Is that okay to say on podcast?
Yeah, we can say whatever we want.
Okay, perfect. Free speech is alive and well.
Correct.
All right. Well, that's the news segment. I think that's it. I don't know if there was anything else news-wise that happened. Um, well, actually, I did see that Skydance is acquiring Paramount. I didn't even think Skydance was that big.
Yeah.
I guess so, but yeah. So there goes. Is that That's probably the last standalone studio.
Hmm.
That's kind of sad, but I guess it was inevitable. So MGM is owned by Amazon, and Paramount is owned by Skydance, which I can't believe that that is true, but I think it is. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure I saw that. Let me see. Skydance. Yeah, it's a merger. Um, I guess okay. It wasn't even announced a full day ago, so we don't even know what's really happening. But yeah, so
More to come.
it's probably going to be like Paramount Skydance Studios or something, or maybe they'll just keep it as Paramount. I don't know, or care. So that's it for news. Let's talk about a monkey movie. One is that is called The Ape. And The Ape is kind of interesting, even though it is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my whole life. It's a half star. There's no redeeming qualities in it whatsoever. Um, what is there is important historical context needed to describe why this movie exists and why it sucks. Because This movie came out in 1940. First of all, just it's drive-in fodder, and for maybe people who are too young to know what that means, is that in the 40s and 50s there were drive-in theaters that basically just needed movies to play so that couples could make out and do other extracurricular activities in their car in the background. And every once in a
Tennis?
while, to play tennis. Yeah, they played tongue tennis in the in their car seats,
Right.
and they just needed something in the background. And so usually it's like horror movies. So of that era, everyone thinks of like corny sci-fi movies, like it's people talking in rooms, and then like one thing happens that's kind of scary, and it's right at the middle and right at the end. And that's just to give a bunch of time for couples to make out and then go, ah, I'm so scared, and then like leap into the boyfriend's arms or whatever. It's that was the climate of this particular genre of movie. And this movie is just like, hey, watch an ape. Want to see an ape and make out with your sweetheart at the local drive-in? And so that's what this movie is, and it does nothing aside from being that. But also important to note is that it is a horror movie made in 1940. And as we discussed in the horror movie marathon of last year, the Hays Code was alive and well. So, you know what that means? No kissing, no blood or guts, no murder, no white slavery, stuff typically found in horror movies. Um, so, all the fun stuff that would be in, a Saw film, you can't make that in The Ape, unfortunately. And they probably just didn't have the special effects to make a Saw movie in 1940, but I don't think that if they could, they would. So it's just very lame. And that is a pun that I did not intend, that will become clear as I describe the events of this film. And so here's what happens in the hit film The Ape. Boris Karloff, who is famous for playing Frankenstein monster and the Mummy, is a very distinctive face, is not a monster in this movie. He is a scientist who is trying to cure paralysis.
Real monster.
He's a real monster. He is, I guess he's committing like evil, heinous acts against God for coming up with science
Yeah.
stuff or whatever.
Tylenol.
Tylenol cures paralysis. We all know it.
It's true.
And the reason he's doing it was he was like, hey, there was this plague that just spread through our town. And I thought, hey, that's kind of neat. It's like a little neat historical artifact because, the Spanish like flu just happened like 10 or 15 years before this movie came out. Like, that's kind of neat. It's referencing a real historical event that would have been topical for the people at the time, except it's not referencing that at all. It's referencing a made up epidemic that maybe it's polio or I don't know any other contagious disease that would lead to paralysis. So I'm guessing it's polio. I'm not sure. The president had it at that time, so who knows? Maybe. So he's trying to cure paralysis, and he's doing this by. It's implied that he's killing stray dogs. Although all we see him doing is petting a dog, and then someone is like, oh, all the dogs are going missing. And so I guess he's killing dogs and extracting their spinal fluid because he is a mad scientist that believes that spinal fluid what are they
Transfusion.
transfusions, that's the word I'm looking for. He thinks that doing one of those will fix paralysis, which I don't know, maybe. I'm not a scientist. I don't hate God that much. I'm not a monster. So hard to say. But he's doing that and it's unsuccessful because he has this like surrogate daughter, which I don't understand the relationship. There's like this, I guess I'll say like 1940s pretty lady that is like in a wheelchair. And I guess she's supposed to be playing someone that's like 17 or 18, but she's clearly like 30. Or maybe that's just how like 17 or 18
Many
year olds.
such cases.
Yeah. But also, like, you look at pictures that are like a 17-year-old in 1860 and it looks like they're 45. So maybe it's just a classic case of that, where it's like, oh, they just looked really old back then because they didn't have caffeinated shampoos or whatever. Modern
Weed pens.
weed pens. They had the real stuff, and it was in Coca Cola.
Yes, sir.
So he has this surrogate daughter, but she isn't really a surrogate daughter. She's in a wheelchair because she was paralyzed from the plague, and the doctor's wife and daughter were both killed in the plague. Yes, killed maybe is the right word. It wasn't murdered. They just died. But the girl's mom is still alive, so I don't know why he's like taken to this young lady and like, I'm gonna cure your polio, and so I'm gonna do it by killing dogs. But it eventually escalates to where like, he's the local doctor in this small town. So when people are hurt, they bring him to the doctor and like, yo, doc, can you fix this guy up? I need to chase an ape because we'll get to it. But there's an ape that's loose and it's hurting people. And so the doctor is taking the people that were hurt by the ape, killing them and extracting their spinal fluid to fix paralysis. And so really most of the movie is focused on this doctor doing science experiments by killing people. But we never see him kill people. It's all just off screen, and I don't even know if they don't even really even bring it up. It's barely implied. It's just like these people are missing, and I guess the doctor is killing them, but we never like know like, I don't know, what happens to them after they go to the doctor's office. Like that's how strict the Hays Code was, is that you can't show deaths on screen, but you can't also like even say like they went to the doctor's office and then they died. Like it has to be that blurry where you have to like, I guess the doctor was killing them, even though we don't know what happens to these people at all. So yeah, but he does end up curing paralysis, so that's pretty cool. But at what cost? It really raises a serious question about when does science go too far? And also, why is there an ape running loose in the town that is killing people? Because there's an ape. It's loose. Look out. It's an ape. And it's the worst ape suit I've ever seen. It's even worse than those Planet of the Apes apes. Some of those were good. Some of those were awful. And this one is worse than all of them. And I guess there was a circus that came to town and the ape escaped. Like my favorite Capcom game. Namco? Who makes
Monkey
ape
Ball.
Monkey Ball? No, there's an ape escape. It's a game.
There it is, yeah.
Is it
I don't know who
Konami?
makes it, though. It sounds like a Konami game.
I think it's Konami because I think in Metal Gear Solid 3 there's an ape escape mode or a mini game or something. There's a reference to Ape Escape. It's an old game, and Konami ripped it off from the ape. Everybody knows it that they are ripping off the ape, and it's just common knowledge. It's like Nintendo ripping off King Kong for Donkey Kong. It's one of those common knowledge things. Um, so, yeah, that's pretty much the movie. Um, and it's also like most of the scenes between the doctor and the paralyzed lady are like, I'm going to inject you with this spinal fluid And then she's like, "Hey, this really hurts." And he's like, "It's good that it hurts." And then he starts screaming at her to move her feet. And he's like, "Move your feet." And it's a close up of her feet, which, frankly, she shouldn't be doing that for free, but whatever. Um, I guess it was a different time. And it's just like, "Move your feet," and then close up of your feet. And then the doctor's like, "You stupid idiot. Why aren't you moving your feet? It's all in your head, you dumbass." And it's just like that for like 30, that's probably like 10 minutes of the movie is him yelling at this paralyzed woman. Which sounds entertaining, but it isn't really. It's kind of uncomfortable and weird. Um, but the only good thing I'll say about this movie is that it clocks a very cool 58 minutes. But it felt like it was 2.5 hours. And I actually watched two movies this week that were 2.5 hours, and they felt vastly shorter than my time with the ape. But if it makes you feel any better, at the end, the ape kills the doctor. I don't remember what happens to the ape, if they kill the ape or if it just scampers off somewhere. But it's a happy ending, kind of, even though he dies. The lady in the wheelchair gets up and walks to him, and his last thing he sees is the lady getting up and walking. So it's a happy ending. And actually, I was gonna say it ends with like the young lady and her fiance kissing, but I don't even think that's true. There's like one scene where they're about to kiss, and then I think the actress remembered that like that was illegal, and she like turned her face away really fast right before their lips met so that the dude kissed her on the cheek, which I guess is fine, even though it's really salacious. Like, come on. That's way too much skin on skin contact for me. So that's the ape. Don't watch this movie unless you hate yourself.
What's the monkey score?
Oh, I almost forgot about monkey points. It's not as, there's a little bit of ape in it, but most of it is a scientist abusing a young woman. So for the little bit of ape action we get, it's a 2 out of 10 monkey points. It is currently in third place out of the four. Currently, the one with the most monkey points is King Kong, followed by The Jungle Book 2016, followed by The Ape, and then 12 Monkeys, which has 0 monkeys in it, actually. It's the worst title of all time. It's not a very good movie either, despite what Letterboxd and that Rotten Tomatoes website will have you believe. So, that's it. Next week, we are going to be watching Iron Monkey. Now, there's no way that this movie is not a Marvel crossover. It has to be a monkey in an Iron Man suit that is going to destroy a monkey Thanos. I believe that in my heart of hearts. That's what this movie is going to be. And if it's anything besides that, I will be disappointed. And it better have a monkey in it. I swear, if this is another movie that has monkey in the title and there's not a monkey in it, I'm going to be so pissed. Like, I'm wasting my goddamn time. This is supposed to be Simian Summer. I can't have two movies have no monkeys in it. So, anyways, that's the schedule. If you want the schedule for the rest of the Simian Summer Marathon, it's in the description or the show notes, depending on where you're listening to this. I think I'm 99% sure that the rest of the movies in the schedule have monkeys in them. I'm just not sure about Iron Monkey. I wasn't sure about Iron Monkey or 12 Monkeys, but I just figured, they have monkey in the title, so there has to be a monkey in it. You wouldn't name your movie Awesome Dragon that blows up a bunch of people and then have it be like an art house indie drama that's about like a divorced couple and their 5-year-old son that's learning to cope with the divorce. That would be very misleading and terrible. So take notes, studio execs. Don't name your movie something misleading like 12 Monkeys or Iron Monkey. Actually, I can't say that yet because it might be a Marvel movie. I don't know. So that's it for Simian Summer. Let's talk about two very serious movies that I should probably give content warnings for before jumping into. Because I did a fun, I don't know if fun is the right word, I did a double feature of two hit films with very similar names. In fact, I think one of them was named after the other. The movies in question are Anatomy of a Murder and then last year's Anatomy of a Fall. I would be shocked if they weren't named after each other. Or Anatomy of a Fall wasn't named after Anatomy of a Murder, because they're both like legal, not even I guess legal drama. It's not like a legal thriller, but I guess we'll start in chronological order. Talk about Anatomy of a Murder first. Anatomy of a Murder is fantastic. It's a little bit dated, just in some of the how it like portrays its characters. I think it's from the 50s, and it's a legal movie, which of course means that there's no black people in it. Which is something I didn't even bring up in the Ape, is that there's no black people in the Ape except for one guy that works at the circus, and I felt like that was a little bit charged. I I mean, I don't know if I need to say a little bit considering it was 1940, but it was charged. Uh, but in Anatomy of a Murder, there's also not a whole lot of black people, but a very, very, very important cameo. I guess first off, maybe I don't know if this is the most important thing about this movie, but it's what made me interested in it when I was watching the opening credits. It started and it was this like really great jazzy intro with like these opening credits, and I'm like, man, this is like a slamming score. Who did this? Music by Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington scored this movie. I'm like, that's awesome. A jazz legend just composed the score for like this really great legal movie, which I'm going to be honest, it feels a little out of place at some points where it's like the case is about this dude that murders another dude because content warning for sexual assault and a domestic assault and I guess maybe domestic abuse. If you are uncomfortable with these things, skip ahead. I don't know how far. Like 20 minutes? The whole movie is revolving around these subjects, so it's going to be hard to talk about without talking about these things. But basically, the dude murders another dude after the victim was caught raping the main dude's wife. And so, the fun little jazzy interludes while Jimmy Stewart is investigating this murder doesn't really fit the tone, but it is really good. So I don't have that many complaints about the score. Um, but I brought up that there's like barely any black people in it. But there's a very important cameo because Duke Ellington is in the movie. There is a scene where Jimmy Stewart, who Jimmy Stewart's character just plays piano, and that's really just an excuse so that when Jimmy Stewart is at his law office that conveniently has a piano in it, it doesn't feel too out of place when Jimmy Stewart is playing, jazzy piano things. Because I guess he likes, jazz, which I guess is pretty cool. But there's a scene where he's at like a jazz club. And of course, there's like an all black band that is playing for an all white audience, and they're all jamming the jazz. But there's a pretty cool shot where Jimmy Stewart is sitting on a piano bench next to Duke Ellington, and they're both playing piano at the same time, which for a movie in the early 50s probably was not a like super common sight. So that's cool, I guess. That's like literally the only little bit of representation. But when it happened, I was like, oh, that's of note that that this image is in front of me from a movie from this time period. Um, Duke Ellington isn't given very much, but he's there, and they do like a close up, and it's kind of like when like a celebrity has like a cameo in like a Marvel movie or something where like they do like a close up, or maybe it's like from behind their head and they turn around to reveal that it's John Cena or whatever. And he's like, "Hi, I'm John Cena." And then they like pause for applause, while he's playing, while John Cena does whatever. It kind of does that, where it's like we see like the band and like we see that they're playing jazz, and then it like kind of pans over to Duke Ellington, and then they cut over to his face and he kind of looks at like a 45-degree angle to the camera and looks up with a big old smile, and it's like, "Hey, that's the guy from the record that I have hung up on my wall," or whatever. And so they give you a little bit of time to be like, "Yay, Duke Ellington, we love you." And that's what Stevie Wonder actually said. He's like, "Oh, that's Sir Duke on the TV or whatever." Well, actually, he probably didn't see it coming. Well, he didn't see the movie, so
He heard about it.
he heard about it. That's I caught myself because I'm like, he probably didn't see that cameo happen in front of him. He didn't see the camera angle or whatever. Uh, but if he did, if he could see, then he would have made note of that, and then probably would have included it as a lyric in his song. Um, but that we're talking about things that don't really matter to the plot, which is fine. But yeah, so like the first hour of this movie is Jimmy Stewart like kind of gathering the details of the case. Um, and I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really rooting for Jimmy Stewart, like, or at least like I wasn't rooting for like the defendant to like get off because he did murder someone. And yes, it was a bad thing that that dude did, but also he murdered someone. And like we're supposed to be rooting for this guy to like get off scot free. And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with this position. I feel like this would have been more like a clear cut in the 50s, where it's like, if anyone lays an eye on my broad, I'll sock him right in the kisser. But I mean, I don't know. We're getting into murky waters, but I don't know. But basically, that's what the case is about. This dude killed another dude after the bad guy rapes his wife. Um, okay, so I'll say that like I didn't think that like that dude should probably get off, but also there's so much in this movie where like the lady is like she's very attractive and she dresses in skirts and sweaters that show off her upper chest region, not even cleavage. Okay, just the upper chest, which is very scandalous. And so there's a bunch of stuff in the movie that like lines that quasi imply that she maybe deserved it because of what she was wearing, which that didn't age very well. Um, but that's it's the time, and that's not really what the movie is about. I guess it's mostly like, well, okay, we're gonna plead insanity because that's really the only option you have, because there's no way it's self-defense because you walked into this dude's bar and just started blasting. You fired 5 rounds at him while he was laying down and then just left. So you can't really say that was self-defense, and there's really no other legitimate way that would get you off, I guess. Um, so we're just gonna say that you were insane and that you have like uh, uncontrollable impulse. When you found out that your wife was assaulted, then you got your gun and went to the bar and murdered him, and that's basically their case. And yeah, that's so they're gathering evidence for the first hour, and honestly the first hour was kind of boring, which I realize might be maybe unpopular because that's the part where like the most happens, and I mean that on like a filmmaking sense, where like there's a bunch of different locations and like walk and talks, different stuff. Jimmy Stewart falls in love with the wife, which is just as uncomfortable as you're probably picturing in your head. Considering that you're defending the guy that murdered someone over, um, uh, you know, laying a hand on his woman, I don't understand why you're falling in love with her, but to each their own. I'm not going to judge Jimmy Stewart because he's an actor, and I don't think he would have done that. Actually, I don't know much about Jimmy Stewart. He might be a terrible person, or he's an angel. I have no idea. Um, so, but then like the last hour and a half is just courtroom scenes, which I could see it being boring for people, but man, that's like my favorite thing. There's so much drama in a courtroom. Um, that's why like Better Call Saul's the best show of all time. Because there's not even that much like courtroom stuff in that show, but the courtroom stuff in
But
that
they're the
show is
best
really good.
scenes.
The chicanery scene is the best scene in
Hmm.
any television show.
Ever.
I need to rewatch that show. I haven't seen it since we saw it, like I don't know, 3 years ago now, maybe more.
I don't.
I don't remember. I think it was 3 years ago. I don't remember when the new season came out. That might be 2 years ago. But whatever. Suffice to say, I'm a sucker for courtroom stuff, and the one of the dudes in the the prosecutor side is George C. Scott, who is in Doctor Strangelove and Patton, and he's great in Doctor Strangelove. He plays I think he plays the general that's in the war room that wants to nuke the Soviets. Um, so he's really funny. He wants to nuke. No, wait. I was gonna say he wants to nuke the Soviets because his dick doesn't work, but that's actually not him. That's I forget what that other guy's name is. It's a different guy who orders the nuclear strike on the Soviets because he thinks that the Soviets are poisoning the water that makes his dick not work. That movie is very funny, and I highly recommend it. But anyways, back to Anatomy of a Murder. He plays the lawyer that is, or at least one of them. There's two lawyers going against Jimmy Stewart, which frankly isn't fair, and I don't know why the court allows it. And Jimmy Stewart has a good point where like both of them are like cross-examining the witness, and he's like, "How am I supposed to deal with these titans in the courtroom when they're hurling fastballs at me at the same time?" Because that's how Jimmy Stewart delivers dialogue, and it's great. He's very like charismatic in this movie, and every time he's like addressing a witness or presenting evidence, he's so charismatic and fun to watch. I love Jimmy Stewart. It was like a big plus seeing him. Like I'm like, ooh, I should watch this movie because Jimmy Stewart's in it. I like pretty much everything he's in besides Vertigo. I just Vertigo is gonna catch a little stray from me today, and that's fine. Um, but yeah, it's very very good. Spoiler alert: the dude gets off. That probably wasn't even necessary, but he does. It's a movie from the 50s. The good guy wins. Spoiler alert: the good guy wins. Um, so that's Anatomy of a Murder. It's a classic. I think it deserves to be a classic. Still worth it to watch. Some stuff doesn't age very well, obviously, specifically, views on women. Um, but I mean, it's just a whole lot of. It's not. I feel bad saying it's a whole lot of fun, but it is. I love watching the courtroom drama stuff happen. Um, but I can't say the same about Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall was so nerve wracking the whole time because that movie, there's more serious consequences, I guess. If the dude doesn't get off for murdering a guy, probably not the end of the world. He did murder someone, And it's implied that like he beats his wife and also assaults anyone that like looks at his wife funny. This dude's a bad egg. I don't know if he deserves to get off scot-free for anything. Um, Whereas in Anatomy of a Fall, Sandra Hüller, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She's German. She has the little two dots over the U. I think that's Hüller. Um, it's very it's a everything's a gray area where it's like I don't know if she murdered her husband. It isn't like she doesn't just say it like the the dude from Anatomy of a Murder does. He's like, yeah, I murdered her. I turned myself in and I murdered her. Can you get me out of this jam? She's like, I didn't do it, and there's a lot of stuff. It's a very complicated situation because the movie starts and it's the lady Sandra Hüller and she's doing like this interview with like a student because Sandra Hüller is an author, and so the student is like interviewing her about like what's it like to be an author, just like a basic interview. And her husband is being an asshole and playing this like loud, I don't even know what to describe it. I guess like trap. It's like really loud hip hop. It's not even like it's just the beat. They don't even have like the vocals on it. It's just really loud like trap instrumentation. I don't even know if that's the right genre. It just feels aggressive. Um and so he's just playing it really loud just to ice her out, and then basically it's these two, and then they have a kid, and there's a dog, and I just need to get this off off my chest right off the bat. The dog maybe is the best actor in the movie, and the dog is it might be better dog acting than the dogs in The Thing. Which there's this one dog in The Thing. I don't know how they got it to act that way, where it looks evil, even though it isn't doing anything abnormal. There, it's hard to describe why the dog acting in The Thing is so good. You just need to see it. Um, but the dog is kind of the point of reference for the audience for this first part, where the dog is the kid's seeing eye dog. Because the kid, I don't think he's fully blind. Um, he was in some sort of accident. I don't think they really go into details of like what really happened, but he was in an accident and then his optic nerve was damaged. So I don't know if he's like fully blind. The contacts that the kid is wearing is like one of his eyes is like completely clouded over, whereas the other one is only partially. So I think it's like somewhat implied that he has at least partial sight, but he probably is legally blind. Um, so after this, big old rap song is playing, and then the student leaves because the interview can't really do it under those conditions because she was recording it. Um, so she leaves, and then the kid's like, "Oh well, these two are gonna fight." So then he leaves with the dog to go on a walk, and when he comes back, he finds his dad's body on the ground, dead. And so then he starts crying, and then his mom runs on over and it's like, oh, I'm gonna call the police. And it's never really like addressed as to whether or not she did it. That's kind of the main question, I guess. Not even the movie's barely about whether or not she even did it. It's like, well, it seems like it was kind of inevitable that some sort of violence was going to break out, but it's basically a question of whether she killed him or whether he killed himself. Because it turns out this dude was depressed and attempted suicide before, so it's whether or not like, oh, like I don't know. It really could go either way, and I think the movie keeps it ambivalent intentionally, so that we don't know whether or not we did. Even by the end of the movie, I don't think it's really clear whether or not he like killed himself or not. And I'm not gonna spoil it because it did just come out last year, so I'm not gonna say what happens. But this movie basically takes the hour of, getting evidence, throws that out the window, and most of the movie takes place in the courtroom, which for me, that was very, very interesting, mainly on the fact that I don't really know how French courtrooms operate. Turns out they wear funny robes, and that was, I'll be honest, I'll be man enough. It did kind of take me a minute to get used to it and not kind of smile when I saw the prosecutors wear funny red robes and the defense they wear black robes. Um, I'm just like, oh, that's kind of funny. They have a little uniform that they have to wear. Um, well, I guess our judges still wear robes, but the lawyers don't. But everybody in the courtroom wears robes, except for like the defense and the witness. But, like all the people in the court. And that's just kind of fun to watch. Um, but, most of the stuff coming up is not fun. A lot of it is, domestic assault, domestic issues, not even like abuse, but like it's kind of like up in the air as to whether or not Sandra Hüller's character is even really a good person. There's a lot of stuff that kind of comes out that, oh, she kind of did some stuff to really mess with her husband. And it's like, it's kind of believable that like she would kill him, but also it's very believable that the conditions that she was cultivating in that household would lead to him killing himself. So, yeah, that's kind of why the movie works, is that it's very, it's not like very cut and dry. I don't think there was ever a moment in the movie I was for sure. I think most of the movie I was leaning on her killing him, but I'm also like, well, I don't want the kid to be put in like the foster care situation, and she seems to be a decent mom. She was just not a very good wife. I'm like, I don't know. It's very complicated, especially since the kid is blind. Like, there's just like that added element too, where it's like, oh, I don't know if like another home he would be in would be that would like work for him. Like, it's very complicated and messy. So I think for the most part, I was kind of rooting for her to get off because I'm like, I was thinking about that kid because the kid is very sweet. And honestly, I know I said the dog acting was really good. The kid's acting is probably the best kid acting I've ever seen. Rivals the Florida Project, which that movie is gut wrenching and I was gonna say awful. It isn't awful. I just don't think I'll ever watch it again. Um, but yeah, it's very very good. I think all the acting is really good. I just think the highlights are definitely the dog and the kid, which is funny to say, because the dog probably didn't even take any acting lessons or anything. Probably didn't even go to Juilliard, which is the bare minimum to win
People
an
just have
Oscar.
talent.
Yeah, that's true. Some dogs do too.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think why the dog acting is so good is it's so like believable. And like there's a lot of shots of the dog just like watching this stuff happen. Um like the last kind of shot we see of the initial like I don't even the initial them finding the body is just the dog laying in the snow looking up at the son and the mom like crying, and we just kind of hold on that dog just laying there for like 30 seconds. It's a long shot and he's like unmoving, but you can tell he's like watching the kid, like because he's a seeing eye dog, he's working. um and that's, I don't know, they probably just got a real seeing eye dog and had him be in the movie. I don't know enough of the like behind the scenes, but it's pretty cool. And it's kind of hard to describe why the dog acting is so good. You just have to see it. Because, no lines of dialogue or anything. Yeah, I think honestly, I think that Anatomy of a Fall is probably better than Anatomy of a Murder. Um, I mean, it does benefit from the fact of like being 50 years, well, not even like 70 years more recent than Anatomy of a Murder. Learned a lot of things from movies that came out after it. Learned a lot of things from Anatomy of a Murder, obviously. Just in like how the legal scenes kind of play out. I will say I don't know if there's like enough similarities between the two to necessarily like name the movie after Anatomy of a Murder. They're both legal dramas, but like there's not a lot of similarities in the case. There's not a whole lot of similarities. Like it's from a completely different perspective. It isn't like a lawyer's perspective on getting off the client in Anatomy of a Fall. So I don't know if that's totally deserved. It's like I'm like nitpicking. Like that doesn't matter at all. But I don't know. Just something I noticed. I was specifically watching these two movies because I wanted to compare them. Be like, okay, well, why is it named Anatomy of a Fall, like named after Anatomy of a Murder? Um, I think it's just because they're both legal movies, and that's fine. But they're both. I think Anatomy of a Murder I gave 4 stars, and Anatomy of a Fall's 4.5. Really g dang good movies. So check them out. I think Anatomy of a Fall's on Hulu, so it's pretty g dang accessible. And everybody and their dad was talking about it when the Oscar seasons was happening. So I guess I just finally got caught up. Except I didn't. I haven't seen like the other half of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture. But I'm not gonna watch Zone of Interest. That movie looks too sad and dark and depressing. I don't want to watch a Nazi movie. I've seen too many Nazi movies. So I'll probably pass on that one for now. But I think that's it for me. I'm about halfway through The Bear. I'm liking it a lot.
I got 2 more left.
Got 2 more left. Okay, I just
Yes,
watched
sir.
Napkins. So
Okay.
I
It
think
keeps getting better. So
okay, okay. I think I have 4 episodes left.
that sounds right. Yeah.
So,
It's a
uh,
little crazy.
oh well, I assume so. We'll talk about it in depth once we're both done with it. Probably in 2 weeks, just to give it
Yeah.
some air to breathe, so that we can talk about it with spoy boys and not spoil it for people. Give them time to
Correct.
watch it. So stay tuned for that. And I guess without further ado, I'll toss it on over to Babby for his segment of the show.
Yippee! It
Yay!
was a slow week,
Oh,
but we still got stuff to talk about. I didn't listen to a new album this week that came out this week
what?
because there was nothing that
Nothing?
I knew of.
Oh,
Nothing looked interesting.
oh,
Um, but we still got some stuff. Let's start with Gambino since I did not listen to the
oh,
song last
yeah,
week because it literally just came out.
I did.
Yeah. Lithonia. It's pretty good. Um, I
I
wasn't
thought so
sure what to
too.
think of it the first time because I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it's
It's
very
kind of like
different.
yeah, it's a rock forward track,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't think his vocals fit initially. On second listen, I liked it a lot more. It's still a little weird, um, but I think it works. The production's really great. I think his voice just like kind of hits that point of like being in it and being out of it at the same time. It felt a little like gimmicky, but it still sounded good. So I'm interested to see where this album goes. I don't think this whole album is going to sound like this. Knowing Gambino, I feel like there's just going to be like a wide array of stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll see. He just did he did like a Gilga Radio or something this past week.
Oh yeah.
I don't really know what that was about. Um, I
So
tuned in and he was doing something.
okay. Is it like that blonded thing that Frank Ocean was doing?
Kind of. Yeah, I tuned in and he was like, it was like a music video for some other song, I think.
Oh.
Um, I don't remember what it sounded like. It was just weird. But I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna wait for the album to come out because I don't want to get it all messy with the live stream and all this different stuff. Um, but I'm interested to see. He's definitely doing stuff. He's in his album rollout bag. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm still off put by the soundtrack thing, but hopefully it'll be good. This song gave me a little bit more faith.
All right. I'm glad it did. I thought that it was all right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just very different.
Yeah.
What's next? We got King Gizzard, new song from the new record.
What? I didn't know.
From Flight B741, new record coming out August 9th. So new song, first single, Le Risque.
How is it?
It's French. It's pretty dang good. I don't know if the whole album is going to sound like this, but it is heavily leaning into more garagey,
Oh.
more psychedelic, a little bit of blues rock, borders on dad rock a little bit in a tasteful way. I
Okay.
like it a lot.
Huh.
It's weird. It's quirked up. It's what I want from Giz right now.
Yeah.
The guitars are fantastic on it. They're fuzzy. They're heavy. They're great. Um, Vocals are getting switched around a lot on this track. I think I don't know their names, but Stu is not doing a lot of the vocals on this. I think Ambrose is
Hmm.
taking some of the vocals again here.
Okay.
But it's cool. It's a nice little tongue in cheek, almost dad rock song, but like has enough of a progression that like it goes hard. So really enjoy it. I am excited for this record. I think it's gonna be like 10 tracks or something. Um, but I love the cover art too. It's so fun.
It's very good.
Yeah, I enjoyed Petra Dragonic and stuff, but like I'm looking for more of like a return of like 2017 Giz where they were just like really crazy and weird. Um, I mean, I think Ice Death is maybe my favorite King Gizzard record after this time because that
Really?
album just still goes really hard. I don't know what it is about that thing, but it is just great. I mean, Fishing for Fishies is also fantastic. We have Polygon to Wonderland, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I kind of like them the most when they're at their kind of most quirky and fun.
Yes. Me too.
That's where the Aussie really comes out,
Yeah.
and I love it. But we could probably do this on the channel. I
Yeah.
think it'd be pretty good. Beginning of August.
We love
We'll just
Giz.
yeah, gizzed up.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is they're only doing one vinyl variant. There's no color variants. It's just a black vinyl.
Oh,
Um,
that's
which I
interesting.
thought was interesting. Taking the counterculture route, and I mess with that actually.
Yeah.
I know they're very environmentally forward with their packaging.
Yes.
They all their records now come in cardboard or paper bags.
Yes, they're very distinct
Yes,
because they,
they are.
you know, the King Gizzard section in a record store because it's
Mhm.
just paper instead of
Yeah,
plastic.
it's really cool though because they are printing on them now, and it's really nice looking.
Ooh.
I still need to find an Ice Death copy. I've not found one of those. I think it's one of their more
Uh,
popular
I
records. But
haven't either.
yeah, I'm starting to see represses come in with the paper bag with prints on them that are looking really great.
Yee.
Makes me want to buy it more because I'd keep that paper bag. It's really neat. I like all that stuff.
I keep
Um,
the paper bags.
yeah, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll go record shopping this weekend, so I'll be on the lookout.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, that was fun, and I'm excited for it. So that'll be coming to the channel soon. I feel like there was one more announcement type thing going on. Got a release date for the new Eminem record. It's this Friday.
What?
Going up against Claro.
Oh,
Battle of the Century.
oh man.
But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna listen to it. We'll see if I have enough boring space in my day where I'm gonna be like, oh, I'll check it out. I probably won't though, unless it's like so horribly bad that I need to listen to it just to see how horribly bad it is. Um, but I feel like it's just gonna be mid. So
Probably.
whatever. Oh, Shushu has a new record coming.
Oh.
It is called 13-inch Frank Beltrame Italian Stiletto with bison horn grips. And it's a
Okay.
holographic cover.
Oh. Okay.
Really strange. I think they had a single come out for it. I just have not listened to it yet. But I'm excited. Shushu is still a band I want to get into. But for my mental state, I should wait a little bit because they are not the most fun band to listen to.
Mm.
Although that Twin Peaks record is still incredible. Um, I know people have asked for a little bit of shoo shoo on the channel. Uh,
Yeah,
I
I
think we
think
had to
that
throw a
purple
basket of
one.
fruit. My yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so horrible to recommend to someone to listen to on camera, but whatever. Whatever, it's fine. Um, but yeah, that's coming. We got Clara this week, so we'll be doing that.
Absolutely.
Gonna be a little
Live.
bit different video live. Do it live. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into deep dive stuff because that's all that was new this week. Unless I missed anything, but I don't think I did. So I got two this week. I unlocked Dawn from the Wheel last week, so of course I had to listen to it. Um, and then we got Lost Wisdom Part 2, and this rounds out the entire Mount Erie catalog
Oh.
up until this point, until the new record comes out a week after my video goes live, probably, knowing our timing. Um, we'll start with Lost Wisdom Part 2. We'll go in the order that I listened to it. Lost Wisdom Part 2, 2019. Surprisingly active. You got Crow in 2017, now only in 2018, and then Lost Wisdom Part 2 in 2019. And we had the live record in the middle of there. So there's a lot of stuff pumping out here. Um, but it is a tight 8 tracks, 31 minutes. Lost Wisdom Part 2 is, again, the follow up, the collab with Julie Dorian. And they do have a tiny desk for this, which is really nice. Sounds almost exactly the same as the studio version again, but it's really great. But this is kind of the follow up to Lost Wisdom from 2008, same year that Dawn came out. So I thought that was an interesting, weird cosmic parallel of the order I'm doing these. Um, but Mount Wisdom, the original one, is incredible. It's a tight 24 minutes, but it has some of the best songwriting and performances. And I think those two as a duo work really, really, really well. This record's a lot different, though. So Phil remarried, which I did not know about until I listened to this record.
Oh.
Um, he remarried in 2017 or 2018. Yeah, 2018. To Michelle Williams, who was an actress.
Oh yeah.
Yes. That
Huh.
ast a year, and then they
Oh.
divorced. So,
Oh.
uh, so this album was about that. Um, I'm guessing it was a rebound situation after after obviously we know what happened in 2017.
Yeah.
And Washington and built the house he was talking about throughout his whole discography. And that's kind of where he's at now, as far as I know, because of the documentary. But I did not know this. This neat little thing where I'm like, oh, interesting. Um, this is not the first time he's done this. He married Genevieve like a year after they were together too.
Oh,
He moves
weird.
quick with it.
I guess
Um,
so.
but I mean, whatever. Yeah, this record mainly focuses on that, as well as like just moving on from the death of like your wife and like trying to figure out where do you go from there and how you do that, which I think is really interesting. So it's still a very depressing record. It's just every release since Crow, there's a little bit more light seeping in. Um, and I think that shows in the instrumentals as well. It's not as bleak. There's a little bit more finesse happening here. That being said, this record is very plain still, and that's not a bad thing because storytelling and lyrics are like the forefront for the last three records here. But I think now only struck a really nice balance of like emotion through instrumental texture and small little flourishes that just really catch your ear. Um, and I feel like Julie is used as more of a backup on this record. She's not as ingrained in it as she was in the first one, but the vibe is also completely different. So I understand a little bit more of the desolate soundscape here. Um, but I think the opener "Belief" is one of the best songs in the catalog. Still, it's incredible. Classic storytelling track from this last couple of albums where it is just like a very long, rambly 7-minute track, and it turns out fantastic. He's continuing this kind of like, we'll have the guitars doing basic chords and melodies and stuff, but his lyrics will kind of just flow over it. There's not really like a cohesion. Like he'll be in sync with it every once in a while, but he'll go on strings of just lines that just hover over it, and it works really, really well. It's a weird thing that I don't see like anybody else do, but it just works. I mean, Julie's vocals are incredible when they are on this record as well. Um, but yeah, I also bought Tidal this week because I have like a hi-fi setup technically
Mm.
now, and Spotify is not cutting it. Um, so tried Tidal for $2 for 90 days, so I'm gonna try it. Um, but they have the master, like master render of this in like the highest quality you can get, and it is just incredible sounding. Um, but yeah, that's basically the main thing of this record. Is just it's very simple. It's a continuation of the last two records, just not as powerful. But I think the lyrical content is still really interesting as he kind of moves on from this like disaster, and tries to kind of put some pieces together. But I think Belief, Love Without Possession, and Belief Part Two are the big standouts of this record for me. Um, Still pretty good. I still enjoy this era of him. I think Now Only is still in like my top three or four Mount Erie records at this point. So this kind of era is still right up my alley. So very good. I don't think this one should be one that is skipped over. This is the last thing he's released as a full length album so far. I think the Microphones in 2020 is the only thing he released after this. But there are talks of him like being pretty much done with an album now. I think he's still doing a little bit of tour stuff, but I would expect we would get that either late this year or early next year. I would imagine, which is interesting because it'll probably happen as soon as I finish up this video because timing like that always happens. Um, but we'll just have to do a follow up video on it, I guess. Um, all right, big boy. I did Dawn. I originally had this in the wheel, but I need to keep this thing moving. So we'll do Mount Erie by the Microphones on the channel because I think we've done the Glow Part 2 and that's a direct sequel to that album. So I think it's only fair that we do that on the channel. Um, so that will be coming. But Dawn is 2008, same as Lost Wisdom. They came out a month after each other, actually. Lost Wisdom was October 7th. Dawn was November 1st. Madman. This record has history and a little bit more of a context around it, to kind of help understand what it is. I feel like I don't have that for a lot of these. Um, so this was songs that he wrote in 2002 and 2003. So around the Glow Part 2 era, and it sounds very much like the Glow Part 2 writing wise. It's very poetic and dark and full of nature metaphor. Um, and this was he kind of wrote these in isolation in like a cabin in Norway that he was staying in for a while. So this is kind of a For Emma situation before For Emma was a thing. Um, and he didn't record them and put these together until 2008. So like early in the Mount Erie catalog, you can find a lot of these songs in different forms. Like Lost Wisdom has I think two or three tracks on there that are put onto Dawn, just different versions. I think the very first Mount Erie thing like ever had a couple of these songs on them as well. Um, but this is kind of like a collection of the poems that he was writing. Um, and like For Emma, written in a cabin by himself, and like For Emma, it is pretty much all guitar and vocal.
Mm,
Except this album is all guitar and vocal. There was nothing else added.
mm,
Um, but at the same time, it sounds like one of the most full instrumental things that is in the catalog. Like the guitar playing and layering on this is just so incredible. It captures the atmosphere and darkness and wonder and mystery that the Glow Part 2 has, but it takes away all of the extra bells and whistles and it's just guitar, um, which is pretty insane. Like all the guitar riffs and everything on here are like instantly you can memorize them pretty easily. Um, but yeah, the track list here, 19 tracks, 45 minutes. Uh, it's pretty dense. A lot of these songs are short. Um, just the amount of like standout lyrics is incredible. Every single track has at least one or two. It opens pretty gentle with the first two tracks, and then you're immediately floored with the Moon sequel at 3. It's just a continuation of the Moon from the Glow Part 2, but the guitar part sounds even better, and the lyrics are like more bitter and angsty this time, and it is incredible. Um, I think I Say No was another gigantic highlight here. This whole thing is just incredibly moody and depressing. It takes those darker angles of the Glow Part 2 and really expands upon them, except it's a completely different soundscape. It's very intimate, very natural, very organic. The guitar playing and the way that it's recorded is just so incredibly good. I think through a lot of his catalog, he plays a lot with dissonance, and there's not a lot of like syncing of melody and vocals, and there's not a harmonizing between instruments and vocals. This record, surprisingly, there is that, and when that hits, it is so satisfying. I think I Say No was like a perfect example of that. The guitar flourishes that enter in certain parts of it. I think just the whole lyrics of the song are just absolutely incredible. Um, I, it's insane like how he had these written in 2002 and 2003 and just like kind of sat on them for 5 years, because this is like his best writing, I think, besides like Crow and Now Only. Like this is his best writing. I think The Glow Part 2 is very similar to this style, and that's part of the reason that that album is so good. um, this is just kind of a companion piece to it, but it's still pretty different. um, we also have a Moon I Already Know, which is again insane. It's a minute 25. It's like this man makes the best song you'll ever hear and makes it less than 2 minutes long. He does it over and over and over and over again. Every time he writes about the moon, it's the best song ever. It's that's a trend I'm noticing. I had to make a playlist for like all of the somethings, all of the moon songs, all of whatever instrumentals. Like he's touching on the same subject over and over again, but oh my god, is it hit every single time. Um, Willie Mammoth's Mighty Absence. I think this has hit me like a truck the first time I hit it. This might be the like top five Mount Erie songs immediately. Um, I don't know. The moodiness and atmosphere of this record is just so incredible. Um, Great Ghosts is another one that is just unbelievable. I don't know how I'm gonna write this video. Like, I kind of want to just like play the music for people and be like, "Yep, there you go." Um, it's gonna take a long time to get the writing down for this because I can't spend too much time on every record. Um, but oh my god, the emotion and just the way everything connects and clicks on this record is unbelievable. Um, yeah, I think coming like waiting for this to be the last one I heard actually like made it pay off more. It's the most it's the most Phil album. It's very much the essence of the Glow Part 2, and the thing that makes people go insane about that record is like here. That magic is definitely here. Um, and it's one that everybody should listen to again. It's an absolute essential. One of the best folk albums I've heard, and like I've this is the first couple of days I've been listening to it, and it already is just like surpassed so many things. I think it's on that level for Emma. It's completely different in the way that it's stylistically and everything, but just what you can do with vocals and a guitar is just absolutely incredible. Like the imagery is so vivid and sad and gorgeous all at the same time. Every single track is just a whole poetry book in one. It's often a really short track as well. And there's not really like a cohesive flow through it since these were just kind of scattered writings that he was doing. But he kind of put them together in a way that it just really makes sense. Um, but yeah, this one got me in my bag. This is this floored me. I don't know because we got Mount Erie on the microphones. We got microphones in 2020 left. Um, I think I didn't realize I could have another Glow Part 2 moment with a different record, and I did. And now I have, you know, Mount Erie, which is another record that people say is as good or if not better than the Glow Part 2. Um, so I don't know if I can keep having these gigantic revelations about these records, but it keeps happening. And I think waiting for this was nice because I think if I listened to this before most of the Mount Erie catalog, I would just be hoping for like something to kind of reach this height. Um, I think Crow does, but for completely different reasons and not fun reasons. Um, but it was nice kind of like seeing the journey from No Flashlight all the way to Lost Wisdom Part 2 and then heading back to Dawn, the kind of centerpiece of this entire discography, I think. Um, and yeah, it is just enchanting. There's no like words to really put into it. It's just one you got to listen to. Um, but yeah, it is incredible. This is one that like solidifies him as like one of the best to ever do it, and especially current day in this indie folk area. Um, because yeah, it is that good. So check it out. That's definitely one you do not want to miss. It's one you could start with, honestly. um, but yeah, it'll blow your mind. It's deceptively simple. I think it hit on the first listen pretty well, but like going back to it for the second time, I'm like, oh yeah, this is an instant classic. Like this is forever going in my vault for one of the best. So, yeah, check it out. I think that's it. Deep dive is pretty much almost over. I might go and do like little rarities and EPs and B-sides and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that stuff's really gonna make it in the video unless there's something like really standout or interesting in it. So now I got to sit down and listen and write and create a whole bunch of graphics. Uh, so now I got to work hard for the next 4 months probably. Get this thing done. And we got to do mountaineering on the channel. So whenever we get a man next, that's coming straight up. So
It's coming.
but yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Holy moly. Well, that's good. I don't know if I've had a whole lot of musical things. I did listen to that Noah Kahan record, Stick Season. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about him, saying that he's the next coming of indie folk pop Jesus. And it was pretty good. I don't know if it was like the best album I've ever heard, but in terms of like folk pop, pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Bon Iver, Bon Iver. I don't
Not
know if
many
that's
things
even
are.
folk pop. I don't know if
That's
I've
just like it's
that's
like
soft
indie
rock.
rock at that point. Soft rock. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I've listened to any folk pop then. I don't listen to like Mount Joy or does
Yeah.
Hosier count?
I think Hosier would kind of count.
Okay.
I don't know
Well,
what Hosier is.
I don't know. I
I feel
just
like
know
that.
that he's like one of the biggest artists right now and I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Singer songwriter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I thought that it was pretty good. I don't know. I mean, we could do it on the channel.
Hmm.
It would probably get views. So maybe,
Those are
maybe,
nice.
maybe I'll add it. I am nothing if not a sellout,
Yes.
except for the last thing I picked was Lobby Sifri's Crying, Laughing, Loving, Lying, which I don't think anyone cares about. So,
Yeah, but there's probably not too many reactions to it, and that's where we find our lane.
exactly. Well, I think my philosophy is that if I can at least bring some eyes to an album, then I'm going to pick it. If it's something that I
Exactly.
like, I don't care if 20 people watch it. I want to bring awareness to something I like. I'm not going to just chase what other people like a coward, like a
We
fool.
never played to the algorithm. We're not going to start now.
Exactly right. That being said, I absolutely love Gracie Abrams. She probably is my favorite
She's the
artist.
best.
Chapel Roan, come on.
I
What?
feel like we're not allowed to react to that.
What do you mean?
Like I'm pushing the envelope with my brat praise. I don't know if I can do Chapel Roan without being
Anthony
a culture
Fantano
vulture.
is straight and he gave it a 10.
That's Anthony though.
Yeah, he gets a pass.
He gets somewhat of a pass.
Is it because he went out with the Jack of Spades or whatever J. Cole said? Wait, wasn't
Oh
it something
god.
like that? Wait, no. No, J. Cole was talking about Drake.
Yeah.
Drake's seeing a bi chick. She's like the Jack of Spades because the Jack of Spades goes two different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bars.
J. Cole's a great rapper. He probably won the beef.
Absolutely. Some people say that unironically because he dipped out, but
Well, that's
I don't think he
true.
was ever a target, to be honest.
A minor target.
It's very, 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 very minor.
Yeah, Kendrick didn't even really talk about J. Cole. He just said "fuck the big three," which I guess
Yeah.
J. Cole was in that. But
Let's be honest, J. Cole was never even close, but
yeah, yeah,
neither is Drake, so I guess it's whatever.
that's true. That's true. We didn't talk about the music video.
Oh yeah,
Music
the
video
music
is
video
pretty
did
good.
come out. Yeah, it was really great.
I
In the
liked it.
first 20 seconds, I need that. So
Oh yeah, yeah, I love that song.
yeah, I feel like either that's gonna be on the new Mustard album or that's gonna be part of the new record. So
Yeah, yeah. I've been seeing some people say that they're they're also hoping for like a big West Coast is Alive type record from Kendrick, and
mhm.
I'm down for that. That'd be good.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think since Mr. Morale came out, I've been on the wave that like the next record is not going to be nearly as conceptual or heavy because Mr. Morale is the heaviest, most personal thing you can do.
Oh yeah.
And as an artist, you don't want to do that twice in a row
No. Although he
unless you're
did
insane.
kind of do that 3 times in a row.
Yeah, it's different though.
Yeah, it is. It is different. I mean, he did say the F slur
It's true. 3 times.
3 times.
Something.
Well, a lot of times.
A lot of times.
But it was for an artistic purpose. It was like a
Correct.
Tarantino movie.
Correct. I think it had more of a justification than a Tarantino movie, since those don't really have justifications.
At least Pulp Fiction. Django, I think
Django does.
that's just
Pulp
historically
Fiction
accurate.
was just weird.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes,
yeah,
I'm
we
with
will
you
be
there.
tuned in no matter what happens, and we'll
Oh,
probably do a reaction
absolutely.
to it. So
Absolutely.
I'm very excited. I didn't think I'd be this anticipated for like a Kendrick thing, which
What do
I
you
always
mean?
am, but I think he's at a point in his career where I'm very much interested. I think
Mm,
the break after Damn was one where like we had nothing to go on, so it was a little hard to pin down something.
that's true.
I'm liking his artistic evolution into like this next stage of his career. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see the way that I think it's gonna go. I
I
should say that.
yeah, yeah. And I'm honestly here for whatever he does. I've been into
Absolutely.
everything he does. I don't care
He
where
can
it
do no
goes.
wrong
No,
at
I
this
don't think
moment.
so. I don't think so. It would have to. I don't even know if he's like capable of making like
Oh yeah.
a dud.
He's doing some of the sharpest writing he's ever done in his career, and they've been on diss tracks. So
It's true. It's true. But yeah, if you somehow have not seen the video, check it out. It's pretty good.
I think most people have, since it got like 40 million views in 3 days or something.
Yeah, it's something
Got
crazy
39
like that.
million 5 days ago. So
Yeah, it's a lot. It's going viral, as the kids say.
going viral.
All the kids. I'm not so caught up on their lingo. Going they're viral. Who even
Feel
talks
old.
like that?
I'll see posts about like people being born in 2006 now, and I'm like, oh my god, why are you on the internet?
Well, they're what are they? They're 18. They're born in
Yeah, it's just
2006.
crazy.
Yeah, that's true. People born in like 2014 are on the internet.
That's insane.
That's as old
You
as
should
we
not be on
were.
the internet.
That's as old as
Go
we were,
away.
like playing Counter Strike.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Someone
I
who
don't want to.
their entire life they didn't even know that Obama. Well, they don't have no memory of Obama being the president. They're currently playing Counter Strike with a bunch of Russian people.
Yeah,
Isn't that nuts?
it's insane. I was thinking about that. I'm like, in internet years, we're old now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But when I describe a 21-year-old as young, my therapist laughs in my face. So, riddle me this.
Riddle me this.
I was like, I don't know why this is so funny, but whatever. Okay, bye.